Gunfire still reached their ears, and the atmosphere was tense among the men. With the Soviets gone, the war was technically over, but the Afghan Mujahideen warriors were still everywhere, armed to the teeth and ready for action, while the political situation in general remained extremely unstable. Trouble was liable to erupt again at any time, and Rigby was painfully aware that time itself was a commodity he might not have much of. It took them another half-hour or so of climbing before they finally reached the spot. Rigby checked his map once more and looked around him, orientating himself from his memory of last time he'd visited this place. That was 10 years ago, back in 1979, just before the Russian tanks and troops had flooded into Afghanistan and made a mess of his plans, forcing him to abandon his search after such a tantalizingly promising start. All this time he'd been jumping with impatience to come back here and find out whether his instincts had been right, that the tentative discovery of the gold coins pointed to the existence of something far greater. If so, he could only hope and pray that nobody else had beaten him to it in the intervening years. This was it now, the moment of truth. The men stood in a silent circle around him as Rigby crouched down and examined the ground. There were no particular landmarks anywhere, barely a wind-torn bush, nothing but rock. But he'd pictured this spot so many times in his mind during the past 10 years that it was burned deep into his memory. Yes, here was the big stone under which he'd found the hollow containing the small but sensational cache of gold Alexandrine coins. His heart had been fluttering like a butterfly on that day 10 years ago, just like it was doing now. A decade of anxiety was at an end. In all these years, his discovery had remained safe. If he was right about what might lie buried here, then it was all his for the finding. He nodded, barely able to contain his excitement. "This is the place," he said to Abdul, the only one of the digger team who spoke English. "Let's get started." "Right here?" Abdul said, pointing straight down at his feet. Rigby hesitated, casting his expert eye over the ground as though it were an X-ray machine that could discern the shapes of ancient city walls buried deep under all those tons of rock and dirt. Trusting his intuition, he motioned to a slight mound a few yards away. "Let's try over there instead." He directed them to spread out a little and dig in different parts of it, to scatter their risk of missing the right spot. The men propped their rifles against boulders, unslung their packs, grabbed their shovels and picks and set to work. Rigby stood back and watched, but his impatience soon got the better of him, and he grabbed a pick for himself and joined them. He was physically quite out of shape, as the climb had proved, but now his enthusiasm was unstoppable as he hacked and chipped breathlessly away. Gradually they hollowed out the top of the mound and spread their efforts over the surrounding area. It was tough work, and sweat stung Rigby's eyes despite the cold. The distant gunfire seemed to have died away, though he was barely even aware of it. Just when Rigby was beginning to doubt his judgment as to where they should be digging, his pick blade hit something hard that gave a dull clang unlike the sound of a normal rock. He kept working at it, pouring sweat and puffing like an asthmatic rhinoceros, and within a few more minutes he'd uncovered what appeared to be the corner of a stone block. He got down on his knees and carefully brushed away the loose dirt. The block's straight edges were chipped and crumbled with age, but beyond any doubt a man-made object. There was another one right beside it, some bits of the ancient mortar still visible. He called to the workers and showed them what he'd discovered, and they all started digging energetically to uncover more of it. "Careful, careful," he kept urging them, even though none except Abdul could understand a word he said. "These stone blocks are over 2,000 years old." The hours dragged wearily by. Shovel-load by shovel-load, boulder by boulder, they stripped away the rubble of 2 millennia, and the first tantalizing outline of the ancient walls revealed itself. The temperature had dropped a couple more degrees as evening approached, and Rigby's teeth were chattering. The threatening gunfire in the distance was long gone by now, but that didn't mean that the Mujahideen warriors wouldn't be back. Many different units belonging to different factions patrolled these hills regularly, on foot, in jeeps or on horseback, bristling with weapons. These were